for something like that, where your main character might be a woman. But more particularly, after the meltdown of 2008, what's it like, even for you, to go looking for financing?
I'll tell you what it's like, Harlan. When we get back to New York, if you got a gun, let's go rob a bank, because I'm not quite sure how else to get the money these days. It's pretty bleak. It's very hard too, because a lot of people who finance things want to see something that was like something else. And that's very frustrating, and a kind of cowardice of anything that's different. So that's frustrating. It's pretty bleak, but you know, I feel like they can help me or not help me, but they're not going to stop me. And I have projects of varying levels of budgets, so I'm going to proceed by any means necessary, I guess.
Well,
It's not good out there. It's very, very hard when you hear things like, wow, no one wants to distribute a film by Terry Gilliam or something like that. It's like, wow, don't you appreciate these incredible gifts to cinema? What kind of... But again, as I said earlier, the system is broken. You know, the old thing is broken. So there has to be some new way to approach these things. I'm just not quite sure what it is yet.
It may surprise you, I have a gun and I could use a little excitement.
Just a question about Down by Law. In that movie we have the reoccurrence of your number 3 there, and we have 3 protagonists, but we open up with just Jack and Zach, and we see their stories and kind of like how they got into prison, but we don't see it with Bobby. We hear about that in retrospect when he's already in prison. I was just wondering why you chose to do it that way.
I don't know why. You know, those 2 characters were the American characters. We do meet Roberto's character very briefly. Tom Waits runs into him. But I kind of wanted to leave him a little enigmatic as the kind of true outsider. You know, the characters of Zach and Jack sort of think of themselves as kind of outsiders in a way, and then they meet a real one, you know, a guy that's he's very optimistic about things, he's very irrepressible, he talks what he thinks, his English is imperfect, but he's very resilient, and they're kind of moody, you know, they're a little depressive. And here's this guy that I think there is a way to escape from this place, you know. And so they are spurred on by his spirit. So I didn't want to have too much of a backstory of this character, because he's the one that is the catalyst in a way, and brings them, I think, changes their perspective on things through his spirit. But again, I haven't seen this damn film for a long, long time, so my memory is a bit foggy. I remember much more about the shooting of the film than the film itself, you know, so.
The shooting of the film.
What?
The shooting of the film? Do you have any fun stories about you and Tom Waits and Tom Lee?
Oh man, I got a lot of them. I don't know where to begin. I can tell you one. We were teaching, well, here's one. I organized for John Lurie, Tom Waits, myself, and Roberto to be put into the parish prison in New Orleans as new prisoners, without even the guards on the cell block knowing that we weren't actually really new prisoners, just so that we could see how it felt, which is kind of pretentious, I realize, and knowing that we're going to go out that night, you know. But it was kind of scary, and we got whistled at and stuff. But John and Tom were put into a cell block together, and there was a lot of heavy stuff in that prison, and I think it scared them a little, you know. Whereas I was put in a cell with Roberto, who is a very, very intelligent man, and for him it was like, all he would say to me was, Jim, why we are doing this? Tonight we can go and get good marinara, and what is the point of I know he's jail. It had no effect on him whatsoever. We taught him a lot of wrong English, but he played tricks back on me. I remember once I told him something like, okay, when we roll in this scene, Bob, you're going to say goodbye to these two friends, so you're going to say goodbye twice. Do you understand? Yes, I understand everything perfect. So we roll, and he turns and says, goodbye twice. This kind of thing. And he was just doing that to me, because we had told him terrible things about, you know, to piss, we told him in English is to flame. And he still says that. Excuse me, I go to flame. But he got us back in a lot of ways, too, I must say. But we all stayed in a very rundown hotel that was also populated by a lot of student nurses. I remember Tom's birthday during the shoot. Tom had an open bottle of champagne in each hand. He was knocking on random doors in this hotel. Student nurses would open the hotel with the door still like latched by a chain, and they'd see Tom Waits there, and they don't know who he is, but he's like, hey, we're a party on wheels, mind if we come in? The door would slam. Well, a lot of wild things. There was a pool in this rundown motel. There were naked crew members in the night in the pool, and we took over the bar of the hotel every night, literally took it over. Everyone else would flee, and we would steal the alcohol, and we had really a lot of fun. I can't imagine spending that much energy while not shooting again as I'm older, but it was really invaluable, and going into the swamps and shooting there and meeting people that lived there in the bayou of Louisiana. I remember we met one guy who knew all the wildlife and lived in a shack, and his daughter came into the room. She was about 13 or 14 and very pregnant, and he said, this is my daughter. What did he say? Something like, she wasn't living here, but I don't know, he said something that implied that he had impregnated her. I can't remember how he revealed, but it was very, creepy. There was a lot of weird stuff. Oh, and now here's a good thing. We had two real police officers in an early scene in the film, and I just wanted them to frisk these two black guys who were incredible guys that were actually chiefs of these tribes of Mardi Gras, and really cool, respected people in the black community, And I had these two guys up against the wall, and the cops were going to frisk them. And I said to the police, we're going to come by in a car now, and we did a test, and then I said, okay, this time we're going to shoot one, meaning we're going to make a shot. And the cop turned to me and said, well, which one of them you want us to shoot? So there was a lot of stuff like that. There are so many stories I can't begin to.